the chairperson for your committee, and I think, speaking on behalf of most of the councillors here, Deputy Mayor Downard would be happy to see you as the chair, but if you could keep us in the loop, would be good. Yep. Cool. Thank you very much. Right, moving now to agenda item number 10, and I see you have that for us again, Ms. Rawley, which is an application for a right-of-way easement, maybe, Marina Terrace Recreational Reserve.
Yeah, but just because it's an area.
It's here.
That's what Mike and I were talking about earlier. You were here. This was the time to rectify it. This is the time to say, well, hold on a minute. This is what we're saying is that Dave obviously knew about it. It was on their limb or something. So what promises were made?
Well, Ms. Rawley, we'll all come to attention. We're having a little bit of a chat around here, but it's obviously, reading this, and I've read it twice now, obviously goes way back a long time.
This is a long-standing.
There's a lot of who did what and who did it and ownership things and all sorts of things like that. So I guess we just got to open us up to the councillors now, and I see you've made a suggested resolution. What I'd actually like to hear, just to start with from you, Ms. Rawley, why did you put that suggested resolution on that page? Is that just your management feel of how it should be handled, or?
Well, in discussing with the owner of the property adjacent to the reserve, there were a number of options that we could follow to resolve the situation, and I've laid out the options here. The first one, which is the one that they were initially going to go with before they bought the property, we had a good long discussion on the phone, and they were going to...
Just stop you there. They knew about this before they bought the property?
Yes.
Okay, cool.
They were going to reduce the size of the garage, so pull it back from the property so that they could relocate the driveway completely within their own property, and then it wouldn't be an issue. So that was actually what they were going to do before they bought the property. It wasn't until after they bought the property that they got back to me and said, well, no, we don't want to do that anymore. We looked at some other options. The next one was that they could, or that we could consider granting an easement, a right-of-way over the reserve for the area of land that the driveway occupies. So that's the area of land that they need to pass and repass over on the reserve. So that was option 2. Option 3 was a similar scenario, but reducing the area of land that they would need to pass and repass over so that it was just a manoeuvring area immediately outside the garage. So they would shift the driveway back onto their property and then come out through a gate onto the reserve, back around and then into the reserve, so that they would only need an easement for a small manoeuvring area outside the garage. And then option 4 was that we could sell them the land that's under the driveway. So I put all those options to them through their solicitor. They considered them for about a year and finally got back to me last month saying that their preferred option was option 2, which was a right-of-way where the existing driveway is now. So that's the reason that the resolution is.
Just for the utmost clarity, before they bought the house, while they still were making the decision, will we or won't we, they came to you and they agreed that they were going to reduce the size of the garage and shift their driveway onto that property and not be on our reserve in that. Yes. So then they buy the house, and obviously they bought it at a price that would reflect that, I would think.
I understand they negotiated something with the previous
the other owner because there was an issue, and they'd have to... Yeah. I mean, if I made my garage at my house smaller, I guess my value would go down. It wouldn't go up, would it? Because I'd have a smaller garage rather than a bigger garage. So the deal that they verbally sort of had with you was that they were going to reduce the size of the garage, etc., not encroach on our reserve. That's historically been done for some 30-odd years, and everybody would be happy. They bought the house, and then all of a sudden they weren't happy. They don't want to reduce their garage, and... Yeah, okay, I've got the picture now. Okay, Councillor Johnson.
Just for clarity, the photo with the fence.
Yes.
Is the fence on their boundary? On the boundary? The next photo down's a bit clearer, I think.
That one?
Yeah. So where is
They've recently put that fence up in the last few months. That fence, the boundary is, see that peg there?
Yeah.
Sorry, I'm trying to stop my hand shaking. That's the boundary. That's the reserve boundary. It comes out on that sort of alignment.
So the driveway at the start is not on reserve.
The driveway is on their own property.
But
The fence is on their own property.
if you did a
It's
straight...
entirely on their own property.
Yeah.
Sorry, Alison, can you just go back to that picture?
Yes.
See, where's that line? On that line there. So that goes right there. So the start is, but then it must cross over there in the trees, does it? Because that's the boundary line there, is it?
That explains the
does
question.
start
of
on their
council
property.
governance, yeah.
And then it crosses the boundary about halfway along and goes onto the reserve.
Okay, Councillor Craig.
Your Worship and Alison, I live just round the corner, if you look at the bottom left-hand corner, just round there. Go along this every other day. The width of that alleyway is the same as the width of any other alleyway in the whole of Kinloch, and it's like Taupo. It's got all these little alleyways all over them. What exists at the moment is tasteful. It's got a nice avenue of trees there. I can't see the point of going right back into history. I know it's a little piece of land that would cause these people quite a lot of money, and we'd have to take some of those trees down, I think, Alison, too. They'd have to obviously move their bottom of their fence to make a sharper turn. I can't see anything wrong with option 2, just granting them an easement. I know they've encroached, which is strictly not done, but it's a historical thing that they've inherited.
Councillor Bernard.
Yes, but Councillor Craig, the difficult part for me is that they knew about it before they brought it. Now, do we set a precedent that because I know there's lots of other places that do probably encroach on reserves, and there's things that go by year after year. But the simple fact is that I'm struggling with at the moment is that the purchaser knew that this is, and whether they negotiated with the owners to get a bit off because they knew they either had to reduce the garage or into the property. The thing that I just struggle with too is that the start of the driveway actually starts on their property. So can you go back to that?
Aerial?
Yep. So the start of their driveway is actually on their property.
That's right.
So,
Yeah, that's right.
You could, there's that line there, so there's no trouble with doing there. The trouble is that they've built this big garage that now they can't turn around into here.
Yeah.
So I can't see why their driveway can still go down there. I think the thing we have to address, why give them the easement that goes right out there? The thing we have to address is this part here, because do we say they have to make a major alteration to their garage to get in there, on knowing that that they purchased the property with that suggestion coming to council, or 2, do we give them easement to that little part of the garage there? That's the dilemma I have.
I think the turning circle is too big. I walked up and down it, and it's a huge. I don't think they can get out, in that turning circle if we do chop off that little bit of reserve.
Page 10 bar 5 of this agenda item, it shows the proposed right-of-way, and there's a big chunk of land of our reserve getting used. So why would we give an easement of right-of-way which would be free? Well, play the devil's advocate here. Why aren't we selling it to them? Why are we giving it to free?
I'm not suggesting it would be free at all. In fact, the valuation that the registered valuer put on that piece of land as a right-of-way is not a lot less than the value to sell it to them. The value to sell it to them was about 10 grand. The value as a right-of-way was about 8. So we would be...
So you prefer the easement over just to save 2 grand?
No, we'd be getting 2 grand less, but we'd still own the land. They'd still be meeting the costs.
Then we would be in a position where people, the ratepayers, would say to us, but you've done it there for $8,000 a year. Oh, God, I want to have that gully over there because I want to get my car in or something. I don't know.
And that is one of the reasons that in our management plans we state that we won't allow private access over public reserves to people's properties unless there is no other option.
I see. Councillor Minchin?
Just in there, Alison, so is it the cost of the process to sell a land as well, which we sort of don't have here? That's obviously very involved. Is that from both sides, to actually make a sale of the land compared to easement?
If we were to sell them the land, we would be expecting them to meet the cost
Oh, I would think so.
of the subdivision.
Yeah, and that would be
That's
obviously...
one of the reasons that they want to go with the
Would,
right-of-way, because it'll probably be less expensive. for
And
them.
obviously
Would've
being a
thought it would
reserve,
be-
there's a lot involved to do that, reading through your options here.
There's a lot involved in both sale of land and an easement, probably less involved with an easement. 'cause
I would have
it's
thought
less permanent.
rather than a subdivision, it was just a boundary adjustment.
Still a subdivision.
Subdivision.
You might not be creating an additional lot, but it's still a subdivision.
Okay, Councillor Henderson?
3 points. I think it would be fair, given the historical natures, to give these people some sort of benefit of the doubt with an existing use. Second one is most of these options, apart from 2, seem to have significant cost either to the property owner concerned and or council. And as I see option 2 proposed, which is obviously the one I favour, in giving them an easement, it doesn't seem as a loss of amenity to the public, to the ratepayer. But you can still use the alleyway, you can still access the reserve, so it doesn't seem like the private property owner would be impinging on the rights or uses of the public, to me, because all there is in that area at the moment is a few trees planted. So that's my views.
Yeah, Rick. Through the chair.
Councillor Minshew?
We're talking about, I'm a bit with Mike on the change of ownership. Was there anything formally written, or was it a verbal agreement to move the garage, or was nothing formally on paper?
It was verbal.
It was all verbal, so we don't have it. Okay.